DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Netflix buffering, YouTube spinning, devices not connecting, Zoom calls dropping. It's frustrating. Let's end your frustration by signing up for fiber internet in Clinton. Click the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
From the Heart Media Group newsroom and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this expanded morning newscast. Good morning and thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The news is brought to you by Baum Chevy Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, as well as Connexus, offering fiber internet in Clinton. Click their icon on DeWittDailyNews.com to find out more. Organizers of the Clinton YMCA's Camp Osage Summer Camp have a whole host of fun activities awaiting kids when the camp season begins next Tuesday, June 2nd. Clinton YMCA Youth Program Coordinator Melinda Akers says she and her staff for Camp Osage have finalized its weekly activity calendar with dedicated themes for each day of the week.
We are on Mondays. We will be visiting the pool at Monticello. And that's kind of just like every single Monday. We try to do it to where parents can prepare ahead of time. So we're not going to the pool on different days of the week every week. It's just going to be on a Monday. We'll go at noon when they open and we'll be there till about 2. We will go to a park over in Monticello. Once we leave the YMCA in the morning, we'll go to the park and then we'll transition into the pool and we'll be back by 3 o'clock. Tuesdays are our field trip days. We have lots of fun field trips planned. We're going to be going to the bowling alley and to the zoo, a lot of outdoor pools. We've got the Children's Museum in Bloomington, which is always a hit with the kids. They love the Children's Museum. We also are going to be going to a Corn Belters game again this year. That was really fun. And then something new for us this year is the Peoria Riverfront Museum. And they have a planetarium and you can watch educational movies. And so we're excited for that one as well.
This summer's field trip lineup includes traditional favorites alongside new educational partnerships. Campers will take trips to the bowling alley, regional zoos, multiple outdoor pools, and the Bloomington Children's Museum.
So we have an activity schedule that gets posted prior to that week of camp. And that will tell you, what the cost of going to the pool is, what the cost of the field trip is for that week. And how we manage that is if your child comes to camp that day, then they automatically are going on the field trip and that will be charged to your account just like a day of camp. So you don't have to worry about sending cash with them. You don't have to worry about a charge being added on there for the field trip on whatever day we go. It's just wrapped up in your camp fee when you pay for your camp days.
Sure. According to Akers, a complete activity calendar detailing exact costs for each specific week is published digitally ahead of time for family review.
So we have 2 different price points. Camp is $56 per day, or if you send your child all 5 days, it's $280.
Okay.
That is without a youth membership. If you get your child a youth membership, which is $20 a month, the cost goes from $56 down to $40. So almost in 1 day of camp, you've paid for the youth membership. I highly recommend going that route. Even if you only plan on bringing your child a few days of the month to camp, because it definitely pays for it. So with that youth membership, camp is then $40 per day and $200 per week. You already have a family membership and your child is on your account for that, then it would be the $40 per day.
To make Camp Osage more accessible, the YMCA does offer scholarships for low-income households. Akers encourages contacting the YMCA for more details on those opportunities. Again, Camp Osage begins next week, June 2nd. Follow the YMCA on Facebook for those weekly activities and more information on this year's summer camp. Coming up shortly on this expanded newscast, May has been dry with drop-off of severe weather. With students out of school for the year, many parents will be looking for opportunities to keep their kids learning and away from screens. Terry Casey, director of the University of Illinois Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties, explains that they are hosting 3 programs this summer to help beat the summer boredom. The first is a Lego camp for kids 8 through 18 on June 9th.
Well, as we know, summer is coming. The kids are going to be out of school and they're going to be bored, and parents are going to be like, oh my gosh, and grandparents, what are we going to do with these kiddos? And so just in time for summer, we have 3 summer fun programs coming up. We have a 4-H Lego Science Click, Build, and Discover camp that's happening on June 9th, and it's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it's going to be at the Williamsville Public Library, and it's open to kids 8 to 18. So it's got a wide variety of projects for kids of any ages to really enjoy working with Legos, learning about science, exploring, how different science works through Legos, which is really fun. And Legos are absolutely huge right now. If you're not aware, they're absolutely huge right now. Some of these sets are going for hundreds and thousands of dollars. Kids have, and parents can enjoy doing it together. It's one of those kind of family activities. Mm-hmm. And so anytime we can, do an activity that's we know the kids like, the families like, and we can tie it to other things like science, that's what we try to do. So again, that's June 9th, Williamsville Public Library in Williamsville. It is free, but you do have to pre-register, and the spots are going fast.
On June 16th and July 7th, Casey indicates that kids aged 5 through 7 can participate in Cloverbud Camp. This program is intended to introduce STEM concepts to children at a young age.
And then we have another one on June 16th, which is Discover, Learn, and Have Fun at 4-H Clover Camp. Mm-hmm. And this Clover Camp is for the littler ones. It's for ages 5 to 7. And it's on June 16th, or we're going to do it again on July 7th. So if June 16th doesn't work, we have a July 7th option. And it's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it's at our Logan County Extension office in Lincoln. And so again, this is 5 to 7-year-olds. It's free to attend. Kids just need to bring a lunch. Mm-hmm. And it's a full day of just exploring STEM, nature, animals. They're going to do some kitchen science. They're going to listen to music, just a lot of different activities, because we know, kids nowadays, they won't pay attention to 8 hours of the same thing. No. So you got to mix it up. So yeah, we're giving them a great tour of all the different kinds of programs that we get into with 4-H. And again, that's June 16th or July 7th from 9 to 3 p.m. And it's for kids 5 to 7. And those spots are going pretty fast too.
For kids who are more crafty, Casey says they will host a clothing embellishment workshop on June 17th. This program, like the others, requires pre-registration and spots are limited.
Yeah, we're going to close out our summer fun programs on June 17th. From 10 a.m. to noon, we are going to have a clothing embellishment program, and it's for kids 5 to 18. And it's where they can glow up, as the kids say, their clothes. They can do hands-on ways to transform everyday clothing and to make it something truly unique. They can add color, they can add patterns, they can add embellishments, sparkles, whatever their imagination has to make something old new again. And so very, very creative. It's from 10 to noon on June 17th, and that's going to be at Petersburg at Antle Community Room. So again, that is free for someone to attend, but the space is limited. You can't have learning without the spark of interest, right? I think, learning is best done when it's self-driven. There's a lot of excitement there when a kid gets that spark, that curiosity to want to learn more, to want to explore more. And that's one of the great things about 4-H all year long is we offer kids an opportunity to explore an interest they may have or to discover something they've never thought about being interested in before. And, it could end up just being a fun activity for 1 year and they've done it and they don't want to do it again. Or it could end up being something that becomes a hobby or even a career. So you just never know where that spark is going to land with the kid and take off.
Learn more about the summer events and other offerings from the University of Illinois Extension by visiting extension.illinois.edu/LMS or by finding them on Facebook. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors.
Spring into savings this May with a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. Savings with a new car? Yes, with our fuel savings model like the Chevy Trax with 40 miles per gallon highway, the Chevrolet Trailblazer, and Chevrolet Equinox with 33 miles per gallon highway. And don't forget about our EV options, the Chevrolet Bolt and Equinox. Chevrolet, together let's drive. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
It's the quiet moments you count on. A call that connects instantly, a show that never buffers, a home that just works. That's the difference with Connexus Fiber Internet. We built a buried fiber network designed for consistency, earning us the title of top-rated fiber internet provider in Illinois. With plans starting as low as $25 a month and 3-year price lock options, it's reliability you can feel without the unpredictability. Because with Connexus, connection means everything. Experience better at Connexus.com. Nothing Connexus like Connexus.
News time is 20 minutes after the top of the hour. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. As we get set to turn the calendar to June, May will end up below average for precipitation. According to Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln, the region saw roughly 10 to 12 days of measurable precipitation throughout the month, despite the frequent instances of rainfall. The total accumulation for May remains roughly 1.5 inches below seasonal averages.
Yeah, we've had probably 10 to 12 days of precipitation, but we're still below normal by about 1.5 inches total. We've only gotten, just about 3/4 of an inch of rainfall out of those 12 days. So just not, enough to really, we're starting to trend dry in the surface and subsoil moisture. So, but we're not in any drought setting yet. Dr. Trent Ford, the state climatologist, has not expanded that into include, the DeWitt County and surrounding areas yet. But we're looking at it. But we're definitely below on the moisture, and we're colder than normal for temperatures. 2.5 degrees below normal. We had that cool spell to start the month, almost 8 or 10 days straight of cooler than normal in the early part of May, and that set the tone. Now we've been around normal for the last 1.5 weeks, but we're still, about 2.5 degrees below normal for the temperature.
Shimon notes a cool spell at the start of the month brought 8 to 10 consecutive days of lower than normal temperatures, which set the tone for the rest of May.
Yeah, we had several days in the 40s, and even below 55 is the temperature overnight that you don't want. The seeds don't germinate, and a lot of people even put plants in, seeds and grow them inside and bring the plants out. But if it gets colder than 55 at night, growth stops generally, and so you really would be running into a pretty slowed down growth of anything young and trying to get going. Well, one thing that is standing out is that May is one of our highest severe weather months. May 28th, exact day of our peak climatologically severe weather day of the entire year. Right now, I don't think we have had hardly any warnings or severe weather for the balance of the month, and that's pretty unusual. We started out all gangbusters, late March and through April. We're actually 110 tornadoes total for the state of Illinois, I should say, but even in central Illinois, we're up to 60 tornadoes, which is well above our average. But so that's kind of standing out. We missed out on some potential frequent severe weather events in May, which is our climatological normal.
We'll have more with Shimon next week on the June and summer month outlooks. Get more on local weather at weather.gov/Lincoln. Illinois Congressman Eric Sorensen, a member of the House Ag Committee, says he's receptive to another aid package for farmers in light of ongoing ag economy challenges.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on what the economy gives us here for this year. Certainly, it does not help when diesel prices are $6-7 a gallon. But I've also heard from a lot of farmers who very early on were able to buy at a lower price point. So that's saving us here. But it's looking at where those export markets are going to be, how our commodities are going to be priced later in the season. But I can tell you from the conversations I have, a lot of farmers are overextended in their capital. And so we do need to make sure that we're doing everything so that they can continue to do the work.
Last December, the Trump administration announced an initial $12 billion farm bridge payments in response to market disruptions. A Western Illinois farmer promoting his use of conservation practices, Brian Corkill, says it's never been an issue for him to try something new, whether it be cover crops or a wood chip bioreactor. He farms near Galva in Henry County. One of the things he is asked about frequently is the financial bottom line.
So I will say, when we started utilizing cover crops, the ag economy was really good. So if we spent $30-35 an acre, it wasn't a huge deal. We were still being profitable. Now in a point in time where the farm economy isn't very good, we are reaping the benefits, so we don't have to put on as much fertilizer. We probably cut back by 40-45% of what we would have been putting on prior to starting to utilize cover crops. We don't spend as much money on herbicides. If we get a good cover crop stand, it's going to crowd out some weeds. As an example, last year, my corn acres, I only sprayed a second application on 10% of my corn acres. So all those other acres I saved money on. So there's just a lot of things. So it more than offsets the cost of buying the seed and seeding those cover crops.
Corkill is serving his first year on the Illinois Farm Bureau board. Another year of big tornado stats, the number from Illinois state climatologist Trent Ford.
So we had many tornadoes in March, 70 in April, which give you an idea. Over the past 30-40 years, on average, the state of Illinois gets about 60 tornadoes per year, and we had 70 in April alone. So unbelievably active. Only 1 month that I could find the prior record has Illinois had more tornadoes, and that was July of 2006. And then it shut off. Not that I'm complaining, not like we need a bunch more tornadoes, but we only had one in May so far. So even with very, very low tornado frequency in May, April has put us up with right now, if the year we're end today, we'd have 109 tornadoes across the state, which would put us at 9th overall as far as annual number. You're right that 2025 we had 126, which is second most on record, and then 2024 was 142. That's the most on record. So we've set the record, the second most on record, and we're setting ourselves up, despite a fairly weak May, having a pretty high number again, just because of how crazy April and then a little bit to a lesser extent March was. So just a really active period of time. But again, like I mentioned, the dryness that May has brought, especially across the kind of northern half and the southern very tip of the state, has made it so we haven't gotten quite as much severe weather in May.
Ford says that already in 2026, Illinois has had more tornado warnings issued than in any other year. Illinois County Fair season is upon us. Gary Milkey serves as president of the Illinois Association of Agricultural Fairs. He believes county fairs across the state are on solid ground, both financially and with community support.
I do. I think there's a lot of great people, and we do have several young ones coming behind us here attending meetings and getting involved at a state level now, and I think we'll be okay. But we've got to survive. We just have to.
The Martinsville Ag Fair and Greene County Ag Fair are taking place this week. Get news anytime from your computer or your mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Now there's one web portal for local agriculture radio programming in Central Illinois. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Local farm programming streamed live and archived to hear anytime. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Hear the morning and noon farm shows with local agriculture news and interviews. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Plus hear all of your favorite agriculture farm shows, including RFD Illinois, AgriTalk, RFD Today, and the Closing Market Report. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. It's agriculture grown locally, streamed live, and archived to hear anytime. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. A service of the Miller Media Group.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. It's called a Memorandum of Understanding. Under consideration by the U.S. and Iran, it would extend the ceasefire 60 days and also allow freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. That proposal not yet signed off on. Fed up with high energy prices, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that oil and gas prices will fall once the U.S.-Iran conflict has been settled. A Russian drone has slammed into an apartment building in eastern Romania. 2 people were injured. A NATO member, Romania, now asking the alliance for help in defending against Russian drones. On the launch pad in Florida for a test last night, the Blue Origin rocket failed the test. It blew up. Deafening explosion, massive fireball lighting up the night sky over Cape Canaveral. There were no injuries. On Wall Street this morning, stocks modestly higher. More details at srnnews.com.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-573-4400. That's 800-573-4400. Again, that's 800-573-4400.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. It's called a Memorandum of Understanding. Under consideration by the U.S. and Iran, it would extend the ceasefire 60 days and also allow freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. That proposal not yet signed off on. Fed up with high energy prices, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that oil and gas prices will fall once the U.S.-Iran conflict has been settled. A Russian drone has slammed into an apartment building in eastern Romania. 2 people were injured. A NATO member, Romania, now asking the alliance for help in defending against Russian drones. On the launch pad in Florida for a test last night, the Blue Origin rocket failed the test. It blew up. Deafening explosion, massive fireball lighting up the night sky over Cape Canaveral. There were no injuries. On Wall Street this morning, stocks modestly higher. More details at srnnews.com.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-573-4400. That's 800-573-4400. Again, that's 800-573-4400.
From the Hart Media Group Sports Desk, IL Sports Wire, and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this local sports report. In a game heard on WHOW and all its digital platforms, Stone Stith hit a fly ball that was dropped by the Shelbyville left fielder, allowing Clinton to walk off the Rams 3-2 in a Class 2A regional semifinal matchup in Clinton. Trailing 2-0, Cole Fentress led off the bottom of the seventh inning with a single, followed by a single from 9-hitter Xander Reynolds to put the tying runs on first and second. A batter later, Jack Manning singled to second, scoring Fentress, and Reynolds came around on an error from Rams second baseman Brewer Wakeland to tie it at 2-2. Moments later, Josh Bass singled to advance Manning to third, and Brock Wilson was intentionally walked to load the bases. A batter later, Stone Stith hit a fly ball to left field and reached on an error by left fielder Wyatt Montgomery that scored Jack Manning for the walk-off win. Shelbyville got on the board first in the top of the fourth when Colin Jones singled to center field and scored Austin Ulmer. They made it 2-0 with a single to short from Brady Clark that scored Will Sterrett in the sixth. Manning was 3 for 4 to lead the Maroons with a run scored and a run driven in. Fentress and Xander Reynolds both came home and had a hit for Clinton. Ryan Pine and Bass also recorded hits. Preston Curtis twirled a complete game, striking out 6 and walking 2 while allowing 7 hits. Ryland Murphy had a 2 for 4 day at the plate for the Rams. Ulmer went 1 for 3 with a run scored, while Sterrett was 1 for 2 and also came home. Jones and Clark each added a hit and an RBI in the outing. Reed Dragavon threw 6 innings of 2-run ball, striking out 5, walking 2, and allowing 2 runs on 5 hits. Ulmer pitched 2/3 of an inning in relief, struck out 1 and walked 1. With the win, Clinton improves to 21-13 and 10-1 in the CIC and advances to Saturday's regional championship against Maroa Forsyth at 1 p.m. in Clinton. Hear the action on WHOW and all its digital platforms. Shelbyville finishes the season 15-14 and 8-3 in the CIC, with all 3 losses coming at the hands of the Maroons. In a game heard on WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com, a 9-run 6th inning opened the floodgates and pushed Monticello past Westville 11-2 in high school baseball Class 2A regional semifinal action in Monticello on Thursday. With the game tied at 2-2 going to the bottom of the 6th inning, miscues and walks allowed Monticello to send 13 batters to the plate. Grant Kiger hit a ground rule double and a 2-run single in the 6th. Coy Williams walked and scored, then had an RBI single later in the 6th. Hayden Romano went the distance on the hill for Monticello. The senior struck out 6, walked 4, and permitted just 1 hit. He worked through a bases loaded and nobody out jam in the 4th inning, permitting a 2-run suicide squeeze, but settled down to retire 9 of the final 10 batters he faced, including an inning-ending double play in the 6th. Monticello goes to 30-4 overall. They take on rival Tolono Unity for a regional championship on Saturday at 11 a.m. Hear the action on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. Brody Scheffler struck out 11 pitching into the 7th inning, and Springfield High downed Lincoln 2-1 in a Class 3A regional semifinal win on Thursday in Lincoln. Scheffler went 6 1/3 innings, allowing a run on 3 hits with 3 walks. Carson Featon went toe-to-toe with the Senator senior. He went the distance for the Rail Splitters, striking out 3, walking 1, and permitting 6 hits. Gage Rutledge had the only RBI for Lincoln, finishing 1 for 2. Ashton Lucas and Cooper Kohler each had the other hits in the defeat. Lincoln finishes its season at 22-11. In high school baseball, regional semifinal scores from yesterday. In Class 1A, the 5th-seeded Fieldcrest beat 4-seed DMAC 8-2. 4-seed Gibson City Melvin Sibley beat the 6th-seed Iroquois West 6-3. 3rd-seeded Decatur St. Teresa beat 6th-seed Leroy 6-4, while the 4th-seeded Hayworth shut out 5th-seeded Springfield Lutheran 4-0. In Class 2A, 5th-seeded Illinois Valley Central beat 4th-seeded Peru St. Bede 3-2, while 4th-seeded Macomb took down 6th-seed Eureka 3-2. Pana, who is the 5th seed, shut out 3rd-seeded Warrensburg Latham 10-0, while the 3rd-seeded Wilmington beat 6th-seed Prairie Central 11-1. In high school baseball, regional championship matchups for Saturday. In Class 1A, the top-seeded Tremont takes on 5th-seed Fieldcrest at Delavan at 11 a.m., while 2nd-seed Milford travels to Gibson City Melvin Sibley at 11 a.m. 3rd-seeded Decatur St. Teresa takes on the 7th-seeded Athens at Leroy at 11 a.m., while top-seeded Mount Pulaski hosts the 4th-seed Hayworth at 11. Top-seeded Arthur Levington Atwood Hammond travels to 3rd-seed Neoga at 11 on Saturday, while the 2nd-seed Tuscola hosts 4th-seeded Oka Valley at 11 a.m. In Class 2A, 1-seed St. Joseph Ogden travels to Bismarck Henning at 11 a.m., while the 1-seed Maroa Forsyth takes on the 4th-seeded Clinton at 1 p.m. Hear the action of that game on WHOW and all its digital platforms. While the 2nd-seeded Tolono Unity will go on the road to 3rd-seeded Monticello at 11 a.m. Hear the action of that game on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. 2nd-seeded Tri-Valley travels to 5th-seeded Pana at 10 a.m., and top seed Pleasant Plains will host the 4th-seeded Rochester at 10 a.m. In the Class 3A, 2nd-seeded Champaign Central will host 3rd-seeded Normal West at 11 a.m., while the top-seeded Chatham Glenwood will host 5th-seeded Mount Zion at 11 a.m. 2nd-seed East Peoria takes on 3rd-seeded Washington at Galesburg at noon, while 2nd-seeded Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin will play the 6th-seed Springfield High School at Lincoln at 11 a.m. And top-seeded Normal U High takes on the 4th-seed Rantoul at Illinois Wesleyan's Hornberger Field at 11 a.m. And in Class 4A, top-seeded Normal Community travels to 5th-seeded Moline at 11 a.m. In high school softball sectional championship matchups for today, top-seeded Meridian will travel to 1-seed Leroy at 4:30. In Class 2A, 1-seed Tolono Unity will take on 6-seed Bloomington Central Catholic at Monticello at 5 p.m. And top-seeded Rochester travels to 1-seed Williamsville at 4:30. And in Class 3A, the 1-seed Waterloo takes on top-seeded Chatham Glenwood at Centralia at 4:30. While 1-seed Champaign Central takes on top-seeded Washington at Lincoln at 4 p.m. Davis Martin allowed 1 run on 2 hits over 6 innings to win his 6th straight decision as the Chicago White Sox cruised to a 6-2 win over the Minnesota Twins on Thursday.
The White Sox wrapped up a series with the Twins on Thursday afternoon at Wright Field, taking 3 of 4 from their division rivals, including a 6-2 win in the series finale. Davis Martin picked up his 8th win of the season, improving to 8-1 with an even ERA of 2.00, and Randall Grichuk's bases-clearing double in the bottom of the 3rd proved to be the decisive blow.
And the 0-1 is sliced into the corner and right. It might score 3. Montgomery's in. Mydroth scores. Here comes Peters. It's 5-0.
The Sox wrap up their 7-game homestand with a weekend series against the Tigers that begins Friday night. I'm Jeff Meller, and I'll have your pregame coverage starting at 6 p.m. on the ESPN 1000 Hard Rock Casino White Sox Network.
The White Sox play the first of a 3-game weekend series with the Detroit Tigers tonight. Hear the action on WHOW. Pregame starts at 6 p.m. Ian Happ homered for the second consecutive game, and the Chicago Cubs handed Paul Skeens his third straight loss with a 7-2 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates on Thursday. The win came one night after the Cubs ended a 10-game losing streak. Happ hit a tie-breaking 3-run homer in the 7th inning of that game. Happ had 3 hits on Thursday, including a 2-run homer in the 8th that pushed the Cubs' lead to 5-2. He has reached base safely in 41 consecutive games in Pittsburgh, the city where he grew up. Seiya Suzuki had 2 hits and 2 RBIs for Chicago. Skeens is 6-5 and lost his third straight despite striking out 10 in 5 1/3 innings. The 2025 NL Cy Young Award winner fanned 6 batters in a row from the first to the third. Only one of the 3 runs against Skeens was earned, as third baseman Tyler Callahan and shortstop Jared Triolo made throwing errors in a 2-run 6th inning that extended the Cubs' lead to 3-0. Colin Rea is 5-3 and won for the first time in 5 starts, allowing 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Hobie Milner, Caleb Thielbar, and Trent Thornton combined for 3 2/3 innings of scoreless relief. Brian Reynolds homered for the Pirates. Pittsburgh third baseman Nick Gonzalez exited after the 3rd inning with left knee discomfort. Cubs open a 3-game series Friday night at St. Louis with lefty Shoto Imanaga, who's 4-5 with a 4.04 ERA, facing right-hander Andre Palante, who's 5-4 with a 3.76 ERA. The Pirates host the Minnesota Twins and former Pittsburgh manager Derek Shelton in a 3-game series beginning Friday. Pirates right-hander Jared Jones will make his first major league appearance since 2024, a little more than a year after undergoing elbow surgery. Right-hander Taj Bradley, who is 5-1 with a 2.77 ERA, starts for the Twins. In MLB scores from yesterday, the Los Angeles Angels beat the Detroit Tigers 7-1. The Atlanta Braves routed the Boston Red Sox 10-2. The Toronto Blue Jays beat the Baltimore Orioles 2-1, and the Houston Astros took down the Texas Rangers 5-1. In the NBA last night, the